Hi everybody and welcome back to the Cromulent Craic Show. I'm Dylan or Dill House.
And I'm Duffy Beer, so Duff Beer Duffy. And we're just a couple of embiggened Egypts who are here to chat about every Simpson episode from the very beginning.
So grab a Duff Beer, a crab juice or a frosty chocolate milkshake and let's get started. How are you doing today, Duffy Beer?
I am very good. I am feeling very nostalgic about this episode because I think this is the very first Simpson episode I ever saw.
Oh.
Yeah, I think we had Space Jam. Remember the movie Space Jam?
Space Jam.
We had that. We taped it up.
Classic.
Yes. Everybody get up. It's time to jam. So we had that taped off telly, and I don't know if I'm getting all my memories mixed up, but we definitely, so this episode, Bart The Genius, we had this on after Space Jam, and I actually think there was Wallace and Gromit, A Close Shave as well.
Oh my god, what a tape.
So it was a very long lasting tape.
That's a great tape.
Pure 90s, just
Variety
the best. Yeah.
It's three quality things in for one.
Yeah. And then it was just sort of like, so it was probably...
And it was your introduction to The Simpsons as well then.
I think this is so I probably was only about maybe 5 or so, and I must have watched this tape a million times because I just really remember Bart the Genius really well. It's like it's my childhood.
And we'll get into it more when we're on the episode review, but it's a pretty good introduction to have.
It is a good one. It is. It kind of sets the show up for what we kind of remember.
So yeah, you're lucky with that one then, Duffy Beer, and that
I was
amazing
blessed.
magical tape of 90s children's dreams.
Oh, but yeah, so Bart the Genius, very Bart-centric episode, I think. Kind of
Very Bart-centric and gives an early taste of Bartmania.
Bartmania of the 90s.
That was kind of like, it was the perfect storm. Actually, was it the perfect storm, or would you say that Bartmania started that kind of edgy 90s stuff that the kids would be known for?
It's like, don't have a cow, man.
Do you know the way they're like in the 90s skateboarding and kind of...
Oh yeah, everything was
violence
radical.
Started. It was like video games, Mortal Kombat, and movies were all Arnold Schwarzenegger and stuff.
I don't know if Bart the Genius was the
catalyst for all of that.
It was so edgy, it just started a whole new generation.
well, this was the one though. One thing that did start, well, you could technically say it started, was the actual Simpsons.
Oh my goodness.
Because this was the one that saved it, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I believe, so due to the animation problems of Some Enchanted Evening, which was meant to be the first episode, the producers were going to abort the series.
No.
They were going to abort the whole series if the next episode came back from their outworked kind of animation studio in Korea. And they were like, no.
And this episode was Bart the Genius.
Bart the Genius. And they're like, let's see how this turns out. If this is crap as well, no, just put the whole show down. And it turned out grand. I think there was a few easily kind of problems that could be easily fixed, really. I think there's just a few, like even now, the finished product, there's a few very washy kind of watercolor backgrounds, a few kind of twisty mouths, the faces are a bit misshapen and that, but it turned out pretty well, yeah.
And this was the second one that came back from Korea, and it was also the second episode in the running order, wasn't it? The first one was the Christmas special.
Yeah, so it was written by John Vitti and directed by David Silverman, and it aired all the way back on January 14th, 1990.
Neither of us were born.
No. We were just little sparkles in our parents' eyes, probably.
And what Duffy Beer, John Vitti, this was his first 30-minute script, is that?
Yeah,
correct?
So John Vitti, he's a graduate of Harvard University.
Harvard.
Yes, where he was president of the Harvard Lampoon, alongside the future Simpson writer / showrunner Mike Reese.
So these guys would have been pretty well off probably if they hadn't have gotten into The Simpsons. And
yeah, they all had connections.
They're all Harvard alumni and
yeah, there's no rags to riches.
Illuminati.
And John Beatty, he's written for other shows like King of the Hill, which you like.
I do.
Yeah, The Critic. And
Which comes up later in The Simpsons.
which will come up, yeah, a little crossover, and The Office, The American Office.
Ah, so he's got a really good resume then.
Yeah, and that whole dry humor, I would say.
Yeah, it all kind of, you can see the link between them all.
Yeah, and he also he served as a screenwriter for several classics like Alvin and the Chipmunks
Oh,
and The Squeakquel.
the Squeakquel too.
The Squeakquel 2.
Step aside Paddington 2, it's all about the Squeakquel.
And no Godfather 2 here.
I know.
We're all about the Squeakquel. And he also wrote for the Angry Birds movie, which I haven't seen. Which I'm not dissing it, but I just haven't seen it.
Have you played the games?
No.
Did you avoid that one?
I don't. Again, I think I might have had like a Nokia phone, a little brick.
They were your old go back in the day.
I remember Snake. Was it Snake?
Snake was great.
Snake
Snake was
was-
better than Angry Birds.
Yeah. Angry Birds, was that before Candy Crush?
Yes. I didn't get in on Candy Crush, but I was in on Angry Birds.
Oh.
But
They're cute little birds. They're
they
angry.
are, but they get shot at pigs.
Oh.
So John Vitti, his movies are more kind of like family,
Yeah.
kind of, dare I say, cash-ins. Or
Kind of, yeah. And I don't know I don't know, the humor of, say, The Simpsons, it's just very different. than
Very.
his-
But he's
Although, who's the guy in Alvin and the Chipmunks? David Cross.
yes,
Yeah, he kind of fits.
he fits in The Simpsons.
Yeah.
could
He
picture
kind of
him.
feels out of the Chipmunks movie.
Yeah.
Really. He's his own thing in that. I think he makes an underage joke about is it Chipettes?
in Alvin and the Chipmunks.
I think in the Squeakquel there's like a joke about, I don't know,
Chipettes.
perfect blue.
That's very David Cross.
Yeah. He's like, I forgot. Oh wait, Arrested Development,
Yeah.
Chipmunks crossover.
He's forgot what show he was in. So John Vitti, pretty good career for himself then. That all started at The Simpsons.
I'll start with episode 2.
Bart the Genius.
Bart the Genius.
So let's get into looking at some of the context
Let's
behind
get
it.
into it.
Oakley dokley.
So let's get started on the series Savor, Bart the Genius, and what was happening around the world, and most importantly in Ireland at the time that it was released.
Mm-hmm. So it aired back on January 14, 1990. So this is our reeling in the years and the Duff Beers.
Dun, dun, dun,
Do, do,
dun,
do,
dun, dun.
do. So what was happening? Nothing much.
Nothing
When
very
this
much.
episode was airing. We had Patrick Hillary was still the president of Ireland.
Still the sexiest
Still, he was
head of state.
yeah, I'll reiterate, he was voted the world's sexiest head of state by readers of the German magazine Der Spiegel.
Der Spiegel.
Back in the 70s, but still. So he was still president. Charles Hawley was still Taoiseach. When Harry Met Sally, that was the #1 movie at the UK box office.
With that famous scene
With the famous, where she's really enjoying her coffee
with Billy Crystal.
with Billy Crystal. Yeah, so When Harry Met Sally, yeah, that 1989 American romantic movie. So it was written by Nora Ephron, directed by Rob Reiner. And just a little factoid, ideas for the film apparently began when Reiner and future Simpsons guest Penny Marshall divorced.
Oh,
Yeah, so we'll see Penny Marshall. Penny Marshall was technically, she was the babysitter in what was meant to be technically the first episode of The Simpsons, Some Enchanted
Some
Evening.
Enchanted Evening. That's very interesting.
Yeah, so it's a little tiny, just behind the scene kind of thing. And Born on the 4th of July was #1 at the USA box office, so a bit more patriotic.
Yeah.
And Hanging Tough, which that was the new kids,
New Kids
on the block. The old kids on the block now. That was the UK #1 song. And even though it was January at this stage, Band-Aids' Do They Know It's Christmas was still the #1 song in Ireland. Because we can't get
Did we
enough.
not get the memo? The Christmas trees were still up January 14th in
You
Ireland.
can't take the lights down yet.
Yeah.
It's too dark. So when this episode aired, January 14, 1990, there really wasn't much in the news. No.
Bit of a boring day.
Bit of a boring day, even the day before, day after. There was just nothing happening around this time. Just on this particular day.
Yeah. None of the good kind of sporting events started or that yet. Or
No.
none of the good
not
movies or
kind
anything.
of bored. It's an early year, I suppose. Early
Yeah, it's
start of
about
the
to
year.
ramp up, I think.
Everyone's recovering from the Gary Glitter,
Luckily,
the
yeah, the Jive Bunny
Jive
from the
Bunny
last one.
song.
Everyone in the UK.
But yeah,
Luckily, though, it was a boring day, but we're about to get stuck into a pretty good episode,
pretty
though.
good. Bart the Genius.
Bart the Genius, a classic.
Ay, caramba!
Right, let's get stuck into the plot of this genius episode and find out the answer to the question, is Bart actually a genius?
Is he a genius?
So, Duffy Beer, this was the first episode to actually have an opening credits.
Yeah, so we have actually our first chalkboard gag and the couch gag. The chalkboard gag is I will not waste chalk. And it's not
It's not
the
a
most
classic.
exciting. This is the first one, and it's not really the most memorable one. And the couch gag is the family hurrying onto the couch and Bart being squashed into the air, so he flies up. And get used to a lot of the couch gags of season 1, just having people
Popping
running.
off the
Yeah,
chair.
they're running to the seat and then just popping out. So they kind of had a very basic kind of idea running with that.
I suppose at the time it was pretty innovative to have a different gag for each episode, even if it was.
Yeah, it's obviously they didn't use the same animation, and it is an
Yeah.
interesting concept. I suppose we're just spoiled now with
Well, yeah, later on then we get into the really exciting ones and
where's all the ones with
Creative.
the different animators
the
and
French animation and
French
stuff.
animators coming into it. And yeah, so the episode starts, the Simpson family is playing Scrabble in the living room in an effort to build Bart's vocabulary. He has an intelligence test the next day in school, and the scene where the family plays Scrabble was inspired by the 1985 cartoon The Big Snit.
We watched the Big Snit, didn't we?
We
It was
watched
pretty
it.
good.
It's very good.
It's
It's
a
very
little short animation.
Yeah, it's so The Big Snitch, yeah, it's a 1985 animated short film by Richard Condy, and it's about a married couple who argue over Scrabble while an atomic bomb goes off in the background. So it's very 1980s.
Let's hope that's not apt for today.
No, but it's so we watched it and it's quite sad.
Yeah, it gets quite sad. It's pretty like
It's very funny.
yeah,
There's
80s kind of slapstick humor.
Yeah, it's very crude animation. You have, say, the wife, and she has her eyes are these little glasses that she shakes, and yeah, and it's very surreal
The
looking.
guy keeps sawing
Yeah,
everything.
he's sawing with teens.
Yeah.
And I love
And-
there's the cash bit, and the cat's like flung off everything. The cat
Oh, yeah.
the cat gets injured a lot in the thing, which I'm
He leaves the house at the end, doesn't he? He's like got his wee
yeah,
tin
a
around
little bindle.
his bindle ready to go.
But yeah.
So that inspired the Scrabble scene at the start.
Just
didn't
such
it?
a random, just you could have just said, oh, it's a Scrabble scene, but no, apparently based on this, and it gives I've never would have discovered, and so yeah, in the episode, Bart hates the game, so he ends up cheating and makes up an imaginary word, which is
Quidgibo.
Quidgibo, and Homer orders him to define Quidgibo
A big, dumb, balding North American ape with no chin.
with no chin, and Homer then angrily chases Bart out of the room as Bart replies.
Oh, Quidgibo on the loose.
So the invented word Quidgibo in the episode, it actually inspired a virus, or it inspired
The name for a virus.
a name for a virus. Yeah, the Melissa macrovirus, which was released in 1999.
This was a computer virus.
So apparently people received emails, and it was just like a Word document, and it was sort of like, hey, private stuff here, winky face, and it looked to
Do
be.
you like hot babes?
Do you like hot
Come
babes in your
here.
area? And it apparently was like offering the password or the login details for all these porn sites, and people were like, yeah, oh boy, free porn. And that's how, so it would infect computers, via email then in that way, to sign into these sites. And I think the guy got only 5 years in prison though.
That's for creating the computer virus, yeah.
Yeah, and I know, like, say 1999, I suppose internet wasn't.
I think a lot of people thought the internet was going to be a fad back then and it would be gone, kind of.
Yeah, it's like the episode Homer signs up for the internet
Yeah.
with Bill Gates. He's destroying everything. Yeah, so I kind of just want to make a note of if you see the episode and the guys are playing Scrabble, there's just the backgrounds are just so interesting in season one in a really ugly way. There's a picture of the Simpson hallway, and it's just like infinite hallways. It just it's an
MC Escher.
yeah, it's like another hallway and another hallway, and yeah, like an MC Escher painting. And
Those trippy 90s cartoons, even The Simpsons wasn't immune to them.
yeah, it's just sort of like they just kind of filled in a lot of background space, very distracting.
Well, they definitely filled it in again and again and
And
again.
again and
with this
again and
one.
again. Well, I love my hallway, and I like to put up on a picture for everyone to see.
That is, season one is like a really fascinating watch though, isn't it? Because the house wasn't finalized, so
No.
you just spot different things in the background
Like
of each
what
episode.
even room are they playing Scrabble in?
It kind of is it the not the living room that they watch TV in, but the other room, but it's like a mix between those two rooms.
Yeah.
And it's like they moved everything outside of that room and just put a wee table in there.
Yeah. Just oh, it's just strange now. It's a little strange thing to look at really. But
That's a good catch, yeah.
yeah. But back to the episode. So then it cuts to Springfield Elementary, where Bart is spray painting graffiti Principal Skinner on the school building. He's like, I am a wiener.
Yeah.
And he's busted for vandalism by Principal Skinner. After the actual class genius, who's the real genius in this episode,
Milhouse?
Milhouse, everybody's favorite, Wendell, Martin Prince. So this is our first introduction of Martin Prince, I believe. So he snitches on Bart, and just another cool animation moment. There's the scene of Skinner looking down, and he's just
It's a famous meme now.
the
isn't
meme,
it?
the
Where it's like,
pathetic Skinner meme.
pathetic.
Pathetic. And like Skinner does not say pathetic in this
What
scene.
what do we think of the Cromulent Craic Show?
Pathetic. That's going to be your thumbnail there. So Martin then apologizes to Bart in the classroom, but Bart, tells him to feck off basically by saying, "Eat my shorts," which is the first time his catchphrase is being used here.
First eat my shorts.
The first eat my shorts. And then Miss Krabappel then instructs the class on they're taking the intelligence test, and Martin raises his hand and reminds her that Bart is supposed to face the window during any test so he can't cheat.
During the test though, yeah, Bart is like he's daydreaming, isn't he? And it's a really cool bit.
Oh, I love this moment.
You really like this bit.
Yeah,
Duff Beer.
I really miss all these surreal moments. So they kind of stopped doing them around season 2, I think.
Was that when they had the like guidebook on how to write this, on how to draw Simpsons characters? And they
Yeah.
didn't want to deviate too much from the art style that was associated with the Simpsons.
Yeah, I probably was actually.
So
Yeah,
you didn't get much of this experimental stuff.
Just-
That's just a theory from me.
that's their theory.
A
A
Simpsons
Simpson
theory.
theory. Yeah, so yeah, I love the daydream moment in this. Just rare, very cool. It's all black and white, monochrome kind of colors, and we see Bart attempt to solve one of those overcomplicated, basically any maths kind of thing. If 2 trains left the station, and
One of those old problems where you get like it's written in English, but you have to translate it into a
Yeah.
maths problem.
your basic kind of project maths, it's like a riddle, and yeah, and you see there's this sequence, and we see numbers appear, and more kind of background characters are coming into it, and yeah, so the sequence goes on, and then Bart encounters the conductor in maniacal kind of Martian,
Oh yeah.
and the increasing appearance of numbers in that sequence, that derived from director David Silverman's use of a similar tactic when he was in UCLA, so the University of California, Los Angeles.
UCLA.
Yeah.
Party College.
Party College Central, and he had to develop a set design for the play The Adding Machine. The Adding Machine, which was it says here, 1923 play by Elmer Rice.
Ooh.
So it's about after years at his job, an accountant discovers that he will be replaced by an adding machine. So he snaps and kills his boss, which feels very,
That's very apt for all of this
All of
AI
this-
artwork stuff and that.
yeah, AI getting rid of basically any human touch, and everyone loses their jobs and has
So-
to do everything on an app. And
Even in 1923, they were making plays about that.
Yeah, that guy was ahead of the game, Mr. Rice.
We should bring it back.
We should. I'd love to see like a kind of
I think that'd be very cool. A maths play. Could you get any
Maths.
more nerdy?
And so when Bart finally comes back to reality, Martin announces that he has finished his test already. And, he's a teacher's pet, obviously. Miss Krabappel lets Martin go outside to read a book during the remainder of the test. And while Bart is still taking the test, he looks out the window and Martin is...
They're doing the faces.
They're doing
at
these
each other.
ugly Tracy Ullman, I think, style faces.
That face, they tried to get that face, his bottom teeth are sticking out. They tried to make that kind of an iconic Bart
Yeah, it's
ugly face, kind of.
it's a really go-to, oh, I don't like it. And so Bart's making faces too, and Miss Krabappel's looking out, and she's like, "What are you looking at, Bart? Are those naughty dogs back?" What were they doing?
Oh no.
Were they making faces too?
I think they were making different kinds of faces.
Oh, noises.
Noises, yeah.
So when her back is turned, Bart surreptitiously switches exams with Martin like a ninja. And
He writes his name on. He rubs out Martin's name and puts Bart Simpson
Yeah.
on Martin's, and then puts Martin Prince's.
it's very
on Bart's.
simple, like to like cheat on tests back then. You don't have like little exam numbers or anything.
Yeah, no internet or that they can like cross check you.
Cross check. It's like, wow, Bart's been nearly failing, and suddenly he's
Well,
a
I guess
genius.
we were wrong this whole time.
Yeah, and poor Martin. So
And
then,
that's why they call Homer and Margin then, isn't it? Because
yeah. So well, I think actually Skinner had called Homer and Margin because Bart was caught vandalizing.
oh, this is it. Yes.
Yeah, and then but it ties in nicely then. So yeah, about Bart's behavior at school, and Skinner has in this scene he has a secretary. So it must be before Superintendent Chalmers is introduced and cuts the budget of the school because
Sacks the secretary.
yeah,
then
you
later
never
on.
see Skinner's secretary or hear about her.
Superintendent Chalmers brought big cuts,
He's like,
protect his own salary.
and yeah, because there is a scene in say season 6, you know, the bit where it's Who Shot Mr. Burns, and when the school, they get all the money from the oil, and Smithers and Mr. Burns call in, and Smithers says, "Principal Skinner, this is your secretary. There is one last student here to see you." And Skinner's like, "That's odd. I don't have a secretary or an intercom." But I actually looked this up, and there is now school secretary, I think, in newer episodes.
In the new Simpsons.
Yeah, or old new Simpsons or wherever it is now. Apparently there's
That's true. It's like old Simpsons is now some
Yeah.
what we consider new Simpsons.
new Simpsons. I remember those airing and everything. Myra apparently is the school secretary for Springfield Elementary, and
The admin for Principal
Yeah.
Skinner.
introduced I have here in season 17.
Oh,
Like
wow.
I definitely stopped watching at that stage.
Yeah, I don't remember Principal Skinner ever having a secretary, even in this episode.
And that would be old new Simpsons because like
What are we on now? 35 or something?
34, I think.
34. As of
It's been going
2024.
1989, so technically, yeah.
There's a lot more new Simpsons
New.
than classics to
It's so sad. And so in this scene then, when the school psychologist, Dr. Pryor comes in. So you don't see Dr. Pryor nowadays. He was kind of, I suppose, someone for Skinner to play.
Was he kind of the Superintendent Chalmers nearly?
Yeah, just that he could kind of have another academic person to talk to.
I guess they wanted somebody with a bit more kind of character behind him and a bit more comedic potential than Dr. Pryor, because he is
Yeah.
kind of straight-laced.
And it's very distracting because he has Mr. Burns' voice, and
He does, doesn't
yeah.
he? Yeah,
It used to confuse me a lot as a child, really.
he does. It's like a slightly softer Mr. Burns.
Yeah, less evil. And so he studied the IQ results, and he labels Bart a genius. And Skinner wants Bart retested, but Dr. Pryor suggests moving Bart to a school for gifted children, and Skinner jumps on board with that idea. I think that was meant to be a thing where Skinner just wants to get rid of Bart. Like, Bart is a proper like Dennis the Menace character, and kind of Ferris Bueller style.
Yeah, he's happy to see him go, even if it is at the cost of poor Martin missing out
Yeah,
on.
nobody cares. No one's kind of questioning why Martin probably is now brain damaged.
Yeah, he went from being the straight A
And he's
student
in
to-
probably a remedial class now.
Yeah.
And so then the next morning at the breakfast table, Marge and Homer gushing over their new genius son. Lisa, however, isn't fooled by Bart and knows that he is still a dimwit. So I think in this scene, so in later episodes, like something like The Secret War of Lisa Simpson, that's the one where she goes to boarding school with Bart. She would be far more jealous of Bart going to this gifted school, and she'd want to attend. And I think we in season 1, it's not been established really that Lisa is also very clever. I think it's actually more that like Marge or Maggie the baby is more kind of a prodigy than
A
even
gifted baby who can do
because you can
stuff.
see her even at the start of this episode. She's doing the bricks, and she's like E equals MC square.
That's Lisa's kind of a Bart,
Yeah,
a cheeky child. I know she's kind of smart, but she's not.
it's kind of like the token girl character in a way, where the way they would just have the male character, but it's just a girl version. So
Yeah.
she gets her own personality. She does get her personality in later episodes, like even with Moaning Lisa. But I don't think it's really until season 2 that we can see that she's actually really like a very good academic student. I know it's hinted, but you just don't get that real character kind of development.
I could imagine that in this episode, if it was aired later on in the season, that it would be less about Bart going to the school and the stuff we're going to talk about later, and would be more about his relationship with Lisa, and the drama would be around Lisa accusing him and being jealous and questioning his morals about.
And even maybe trying to like call it, it's like, you cheated and she is proof from Martin. And yeah, there'd be probably a bit more of kind of an emotional episode. But anyway, we have what we have. But yeah, so then Homer takes Bart to school, and they see this at the gifted school, and they see all the boys in the class and they're wearing ties, and Homer gives Bart his own little clip-on tie he's wearing, kisses him, and it's a very sweet moment, isn't it?
It's a sweet father-son moment, isn't it?
Yeah, because you don't get a lot of father-son. You always get, say, Homer and Lisa, or Homer and Maggie even, but you don't get a lot of Bart and Homer. They're kind of usually just played for, like, comedy.
So is this saying that if Bart had have been smarter, then Homer would have had a better relationship
Homer's
with him?
proud of his son. And, yeah, and so at the Enriched Learning Centre for Gifted Children, so you can get the pretentiousness from that already. The teacher introduced herself and the new classmates to Bart and shows him around the classroom, and the class is just full of precocious students who engage in all these existential debates. And Bart feels very out of place among the other students.
So they're talking about Freud and Jung and psychology and astrophysics and stuff.
There's one kid that's like, if mind is this.
This is also where we see some weird character drawings, isn't it? There's the little beady eye kids and stuff.
Yeah,
like
a
that.
lot of you see a lot of kids in season 1, and they kind of look like the comic from Matt Groening's kind of Life is Hell. You know, the way he would have the two dot fellas.
Yeah.
The little couple.
It's funny because Matt Groening then, whenever you're watching the commentaries, he's always disgusted at the animation, and he's very kind of
look at all the mutants.
Yeah.
And
we get on to the mole man rant.
Oh yeah, the best rant. So yeah, they're having debates, and there's this paradox kind of debate they're having, and Bart has the famous, well, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. And
it's a good paradox.
I actually think it's a really good one.
And later on then, when they're in the music,
yeah, Deep Trouble, and they kind of have a little remix.
You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
If you don't. What was the party remix song from the last episode? Mighty Mix.
The Jive Bunny.
Jive Bunny.
Bunny Simpsons special.
Jive Bunny Simpsons special with Jazzy.
DJ Jazzy Jeff. From like the Summertime and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air things.
Yeah. It's actually a really good song, the Deep Trouble.
It's very good. This is good Bart, man. It's all that kind of Motown.
Yeah, the early 90s. So yeah, then there's a scene where the teacher finds a comic book in the library, and she throws it out saying, "Oh, what's this doing here? Oh, they used as a prop in a play about illiteracy." And it's like, oh, comics.
2 years later.
And then like in 1992, Mouse went on to win the Pulitzer Prize, and it just shows there was very little respect for graphic novels back then or comics.
There's a lot of potentials for comics and graphic novels, and you'd be able to tell us more about that,
Yeah.
Duffy Beer, because you did an English master's dissertation.
And I used I used comics, and I was doing on Israeli Palestinian comics. So
And there was a lot of good stuff there, Waltz with Bashir.
also with Bashir. Well, I did the graphic novel version of that. I did Joe Sacco's Palestine. So
And you would have come across Mouse and more of these kind of...
yeah, Art Spiegelman, who also did. I can understand if it was the Garbage Pail Kids, which he also did. I find it very. It's just sort of like, are these the same person?
the
But
Garbage Pail Kids to some Nazi...
here's my Holocaust, like magnum opus. And and apparently, so the show received apparently hate mail from viewers complaining that the scene of her throwing the comic book away was an instant of censorship.
It's like
And
book burning.
like definitely Matt Groening, a guy who is a comic book artist, would not be pro book burnings or
I
pro
don't think so.
censorship.
Especially, he probably would have known about Art Spiegelman and stuff at the time, because he was an underground comics artist
Underground
as well.
comics. And yeah, so Art Spiegelman obviously would have been
A level above Matt Groening probably at the time.
yeah, but I suppose Art Spiegelman was kind of more he was more commercially. I don't know when the Garbage Pail Kids stuff was out.
Were they 80s, I think?
Were they 80s? I would have thought that would not ruin your reputation, but you definitely wouldn't be seen as kind of high class kind of.
But that was a bigger breakthrough than any of Matt Groening's projects, I think, wasn't it, in terms of commercial success?
Maybe Matt Groening will do one that's like Mouse.
That's what I was going to bring up, actually. Maybe he has it in him to do
Yeah.
some really...
Maybe that's why he
deep
was on the
thinking
plane
piece.
to a certain
Oh.
island. He was doing research for it. Anywho, so then we later see Bart relaxing in his room with the comic he stole. Good old Bart, I would do the same.
Yeah.
And when Homer walks in to see how Bart's first day was, he's just chatting away, and it's like, how'd you get on? And he's like, os. It's like, huh? So. Wow.
And the backwards speak.
And Homer suggests that they all go for
Frosty chocolate milkshake.
Oh, which I think is the last time. I know that was a big thing in the Tracy Ullman shorts, but I don't think he says as much then in the actual show.
They so tried to make it a catchphrase for the show, for Homer.
I want to see when later if we actually do come across it again, or is that the last of it?
In the Tracy Ullman show, it is said a lot, isn't it?
Oh God, it's like a drinking game.
Everything.
Take a sip of your frosty chocolate milkshake.
And
put vodka in line.
Is this also the first introduction of Radioactive Man? That's the
On the
comic.
cover it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I suppose he doesn't get his full. You don't really get an idea of what the comic's about until that episode with the three boys in the comic book, maybe.
It's interesting how they built up like a fake universe and even fake comics and
Fake
stuff.
comics.
I mean, like there's a lot of cartoons you'd watch where a comic cover is just kind of scribbles or something.
Yeah, I think he's more into, like, say Bart more idolizes, say, someone like Krusty the Clown
Oh,
at
definitely.
this stage. I know, like, throughout the series, but the way he's a huge Radioactive Man fan.
In season 2.
Ooh, that's a tongue twister.
Yeah.
So,
It's just interesting though how they've already got kind of like
yeah,
their feet in the kind of
that's cool actually.
expanding the universe of the Simpsons.
It's like Casper.
Yeah.
I suppose I wonder, like, would they have tried to use actual existing properties, say like Batman, or because Batman exists.
I wonder could they have used the Fantastic Four? Fox was pumping out those really crap Fantastic Four movies at the time. They had the license.
The little cartoons.
Yeah.
So Homer wants to bring them out for frosty chocolate milkshakes, and then Marge walks by and she tells Homer and Bart that she actually bought tickets to an opera just to help nurture Bart's brain, his big brain energy now. And they get these really fancy seats. I don't know how Marge got these. She got connections.
They're like the Muppets.
The two old men.
The two old guys looking.
I never know their names.
Was it Mulder and
Scully.
Scully, the X-Files Muppets. Oh, that's a great idea.
That'd be a good crossover. So later they're at the opera, and a bored and impatient Homer and Bart are goofing off. And even though they're shushed by Marge, poor Marge is just, she tries so hard.
She really wants to be a kind of posh family, doesn't she?
Yeah.
And to see Martin's family there as well.
Martin's family, so
Funny, how come Martin wasn't punished for getting bad test results? I'd imagine
he's
he
put
was
up
quite
for
a strict.
adoption. Yeah. And they're there and they're like, who are those people? And basically, yeah, Homer and Bart and even Lisa's, they're all just troglodytes. These uncultured swine out at the opera. Poor Marge probably spent, do you know how expensive tickets are? Jesus.
Going to see Carmen, that would not be cheap.
With the fancy balcony seats, and Marge is there wearing her little fancy necklace, and I think she's wearing even like her gloves, and
this is the first time we see the fancy Simpsons as well, isn't it?
Fancy Simpsons and their attire. And so later at lunch the next day, Bart's classmates realize that Bart is basically a doofus and not as smart as he's been saying, and they use all these intellectual queries, to swindle him out of his lunch.
Yeah, it's like that old thing of, what weighs heavier, a ton of steel or a ton of feathers?
Yeah, it's like 5 kilograms on Pluto's moon. The equivalent of that for your sandwich or something. It's like, okay. And then they give him like a tiny little crust.
And they just keep swindling him.
Yeah. And they kind of remind me of, the whole meme thing of like, oh, to be fair, you have to have a very high IQ to understand Rick and Morty.
Rick and Morty. You don't understand the plot on this?
You don't understand. They're just, they're just these pretentious assholes to Bart. Poor Bart, because he
gives up at the end where the guy comes over and he's like, you gonna eat that sandwich? And Bart's just like, just take it.
Take it, yeah. Like, I don't think we've seen enough in the episode to really show how Bart is dumb. It's just more, I would take it more that he's just shy. He might have not found his, because they're kind of like the school where, you could be really good at art or really good at maybe English or really good at other things.
It's actually showing him to be quite quick-witted.
Yeah.
Quick-witted at this stage.
Yeah, I wouldn't call him like an idiot. It's just more that maybe he's just sort of
street smarts.
Yeah. Or just maybe there's other talents he has. I suppose because it was on a maths kind of test, really, that they're like, oh, this is where he's really
really strong here.
Yeah. So then he's ostracized by his classmates there, and then he visits his former school where his old friends, they're playing marbles.
They're playing with marbles, yeah. And it's actually, at this stage, it's like Milhouse and Lewis. And Milhouse isn't like his best friend character yet. He's just kind of one of the background kids, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's there, and he kind of tries to reunite with them, and they reject him because he's meant to be, too smart for them now. And poor Bart, he's all depressed. And while he's eating, Marge is like reminding them that they have to go to a film festival that she bought tickets for again. Marge coming out. Where's she getting this money?
Yeah, where'd all this come from?
Where's this money?
Maybe there was some grant that we didn't hear about that they got for Bart being super smart.
Maybe that would, because I know they're all out of order, but remember in the last episode,
that would explain why
she had her big jar of money and that's gone. It's like, Marge is there and she's got a secret little shoebox under the bed. So united by mutual disdain for these things like culture. And it's like, Homer's like, movie by some Swedish meatball. So him and Bart are kind of bonding on all these things, and Homer's very proud of Bart in this episode. It's very sweet. Again, I'm a sucker. I think you're a sucker for any father-son scenes.
Family bonding.
Yeah, and so, in scenes he's taking him out to play baseball, and it's
kind of cute animation, isn't it?
Yeah, they're going to
throw it here, Dan.
Throw it here, and they go and play catch and all these things, and and Bart sees how much being a genius means to Homer and chooses not to confess any of the stuff he's done because he doesn't want to disappoint him either. He's built up too much of this facade now.
I think he's enjoying the newfound sense of family and that they have as well, because didn't really have that before this.
He's not the dumb troublemaker anymore. And so the next day he's performing a chemistry experiment, and Bart accidentally causes an explosion which results in green goo going everywhere.
And there's a joke earlier on, isn't there, about a hamster in the class that was going to
Yeah.
be dissected.
It's like, hi there, little default hamster or something like that. And he's like, no, Bart, don't get attached to him. He's going to be dissected later on. But yeah, you can see the little hamsters escaping down in the goo. And apparently that was a note from the censor because they didn't want the hamster dissected, as it'd be just too kind of depressing. And it reminds me, you know, in Train Spotting, when
They had to say that the
they're
kitten
talking
was
about
okay.
Tommy dying of AIDS and toxoplasmosis and that, and then after he gets this wee kitten, and then the guy just mentions, oh yeah, but don't worry, the kitten was all right. I'm like, oh, thank God.
But I'm glad that the hamsters made it out, because I find Matt Groening's animal drawings to be very kind of
They're
cute.
so cute. Yeah.
And they're just running away in the green.
Freedom.
Freedom.
And so then after the goo instant, the slime tutorial.
The slime tutorial.
In Dr. Pryor's office, Bart writes a confession saying that he actually switched tests with Martin. He can't take the lie no more. And Pryor realises that he was never a genius. He's been a big phony and has him readmitted to Springfield Elementary. And then out in the backyard, Bart comes back. He's like still green.
He's covered in slime.
He's green for life. He's a green boy. And Homer is giving him a bash with like turpentine.
Yeah.
It's like, we're gonna burn that flesh off your son. And Bart is there and they're having a sweet little moment again, but then Bart confesses about cheating on the IQ test, and he's there and he's like, I love you, Dad, and this has brought us closer than ever. And
I don't think Homer feels the same, does he?
no, like in another show, like Homer would be like, oh son, you never had to lie to me, and it'd be kind of like they'd hug it out. But instead Homer goes into a rage, chases his naked green son throughout the house, and Lisa declares that Bart is stupid again.
Yeah. Order restored.
Yes, everything's restored. The universe is back to normal. Bart runs into his bedroom, locks the door. Homer is pounding, wants to murder him.
He's kind of pounding on it like a Quidgy you could say.
You could say like an angry Quidgy
Quidgy
on the loose. And he's there and he's trying to sweet talk him. He's like, oh, son, I can't come out and hug and kiss you. Oh. And Bart's saying like he's not dumb enough to fall for that.
Yeah.
He's insulted.
So he is quite smart then.
He's just more of a smart aleck. Like I would definitely say Bart. I think Bart mixes, he flip-flops on the dumb scale. I think he's kind of he's smarter than Homer. I would say that.
Probably on par with Lisa in these early episodes.
He is cunning, like, the way we see him in later episodes, it's like our dear friend Milhouse. There's a lot of conniving. Bart could get a good job in, like,
the nuclear power plant, like his dad.
Or, like, as a sleazy salesperson.
Hey, kid.
Hey, kid. But, yeah, so then, I love the animation of Homer clawing the door.
Yeah,
he is feral. And so, yeah, everything is back to normal in the Simpson home as he is trying to get in to strangle Bart.
And you kind of had to end like that because you can't end the Simpsons this early on a good note. You need to say that this is a dysfunctional family.
I think, though, in other episodes we see where things do end on a very forced, very contrived, sentimental ending where they walk off into the sunset, or it'll cut to Bart. Oh, go to your local library. I think
endings.
This episode, the ending is very, it feels like The Simpsons.
Yeah, for the first like normal aired one, I think it was a good ending.
I think so.
And obviously the last one had a nice emotional ending.
Yeah.
But this one wasn't a Christmas special or that, so it was.
Yeah, you think it's going to end on a cheesy, sweet moment, but no, it fooled you.
They fooled you. So I think we get into a ranking of this one now to see, did it hold up?
I think
was it
so.
genius?
Was it genius?
Or was it not?
Mm.
Worst episode ever.
Alright, so I think it's time to rank this episode and see, is it genius or is it like Bart, where it's fake?
Genius or weenus.
Genius or weenus. So I explained in the last episode, but I think we'll explain it each time now, where we've got a ranking system that we like to do that Duffy Beer came up with. And I think it's a really good way of ranking episodes, because you came up with 4 categories that we rank out of 3 Duffy Beer. The first category is emotion. So how sweet the moments were, was there any
How heartfelt and
touching kind of moments? The Simpsons is full of them.
yeah.
The second one, obviously very important to the show, is laughs. It's quite self-explanatory is how much did it make us laugh.
For a comedy show, that's quite important.
Very important. The third one is lines.
So anything memorable.
So and yeah, it's not just lines, I guess, it's even memorable scenes or characters. Although I guess the lines kind of come into context there as well.
How much I quote an episode kind of
You can
in my
quote
daily life.
a lot of episodes. And then the third one is story. So how consistent is it in a 3-act structure? Are the characters flowing well?
Kind of like good just storytelling, really.
I think that's an important one for season 1 as well, because some characters don't always act themselves and it's quite obvious or something.
Yeah, and sometimes the stories just wrap up too kind of quickly and kind of there's no closure really, or
Yeah, it just ends.
yeah.
Or it goes off the rails in the third act. So let's get into this then. So what are we going to give this one for emotion, Duffy Beer?
So emotion, I'm going to give it a 2 because I think it's a very sweet father-son episode between Homer and Bart. I find the tie scene when Homer's leaving Bart at the school and he's like, here you go, son, and
That's very
gives him a
sweet,
little
isn't it?
kiss. It's very cute. And then throughout the episode, there's the baseball scene.
You were
And
playing catch out the bag.
yeah, and it's just sort of like Bart's reveling really in Homer's attention, and Homer's just very proud of Bart, and it's all very sweet. I know obviously the ending kind of ends with him wanting to kill him and strangle him, but it throughout the episode it is a very heartfelt and just sweet, generally sweet episode. Yeah.
I think so. I think it is. Yeah, there's a lot of father-son moments, as you said. You don't get much of.
No, it's always Bart and Homer kind of played for. Say something like the one where Homer thinks Bart's gay, and it's a Homer and Bart bonding episode, but it's not. It's not a heartfelt. It's played for laughs a lot. That episode. It's a comedy episode. Yeah, but I give it a 2.
2 for emotion.
2 for you.
2 for me, I think. Yeah, I think that sounds fair. And for laughs,
Laughs again. I give it a 2. It's not a terribly funny episode, but it has a very just sort of chill vibe to it, really. And I find there's things in it that are quirky. Kind of to say the dream sequence and the surreal style of that. There's elements in it where it kind of just not makes me even chuckle, but just sort of like I'm not bored or find it unfunny. It's just kind of in that mid kind of ranking, I would say, really, for me.
you've got a smile on your face the whole way
I've
through
got
the
a
episode.
smile, yeah.
Even though if there's no big kind of laugh out loud moments.
No, it's just sort of a very, again, chill episode where I'm just sort of like, going along with it. And yeah.
I think 2 for laughs sounds fair
2.
for this.
Yeah, what about you?
You can't really give it a 1, can you? Because it is quite
1
like,
would be more if it made me angry.
yeah. But then it's not a 3. But it's a good couple of good chuckles here and there in it.
Yeah, Quidgy Bow and that.
Quidgy Bow and all that. And speaking of that,
Oh, yes.
what are we going to give for lines and memorability?
Yeah, lines. I'm going to give it another 2. Again, it's not one I would quote a lot, really, but it has just very sort of, again, memorable moments. Say the damned if you do, damned if you don't line.
You damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
And, that being a Deep, Deep Trouble song. And then Quidgy Bow, again, so memorable that there's the virus named after it. So that guy, it obviously inspired him.
He wanted to be the Quidgy Bow of
The
the
Quidgy
computer
Bow guy.
world.
Inspired a great man.
Big, dumb, bald American. Yep. So 2
That's
for
the people
lines.
that clicked on the links.
Yeah.
They fell for it.
The hot babes in your area.
Hot babes were like, whoa.
Ooh. So 2 for lines and memorability, and finally for story, what do you think are we going to give this one, Duffy Beer?
I give it a 3. Again, I think it flows well. All the characters act like themselves. It's one that I think would... Yeah, it feels like an episode. Again, I remember my precious Space Jam video, And I always remember watching this one, and I didn't always remember it as being, I remembered it as being an old episode, but I never remembered it as being kind of like, oh, the really old season.
That's what I was trying to say earlier, I think, is that like it was always part of the repeats, wasn't it?
Yeah, it kind of fit in enough. If it wasn't for the opening sequence.
And the dated animation.
Yeah.
But even then, it's got the cool animation.
Yeah.
Cool surrealist styles.
It's actually funny, just going back to the opening sequence, how the opening sequence is different. It's the first season actually, used a different opening sequence than what we know now. And just like say Bart at the bus stop and scenes that are
that Duffy Beer recommended me a good video about the drawing of the Simpsons and the rules, and there's actually the dudes at the bus stop who are not allowed to be there anymore.
Yeah, because there's a guy, they basically didn't want characters that looked like the Simpsons. They wanted the Simpsons to be kind of just sort of unique kind of silhouettes of themselves, really, that you could recognize, say, Bart's hair, paper bag hair kind of thing, or Marge's hair. And there'd be too many background characters that kind of had very similar, especially in the opening sequence, and even in the first season of The Simpsons, there's characters that you're like, God, he looks a bit like a grown-up Bart, and like they wanted to cut all that. So I think it was
that's because they want to have their own grown-up Bart later on in the kind of future episodes, or the bits where he's daydreaming about himself in the future.
Yeah, and say the director Silverman, I think he made those rules that you had to abide these rules of like, well, the hair has to have this many spikes, say, and it's just actually so I totally forgot about the opening sequence.
It's a really good point though.
Yeah, but again, because like say the story, say the story of Bart the Genius, everything apart from say the opening sequence, which was always, even as a child, I was always like, oh, that looks different than what the regular one looks like, but the rest of the episode just flowed really well.
It's written like a later episode.
Yeah,
kind of.
I know Skinner's a bit dry in it, and
Lisa is a little bit not herself, but
yeah.
she's not. It's not jarring.
She's not. Yeah, she's not like terribly bratty like she is in other episodes. She's kind of just sort of, she's actually quite, you see her as being very skeptical and kind of mature. She's the one that knows the term nurturing. She's correcting Marge, and she's suspicious of Bart. So everyone kind of does feel like themselves. And even Homer. Homer's kind of like, him. He feels kind of a bit oafish still. He's the one that's encouraging Bart to be kind of a troublemaker at the opera, and he's enabling that behavior.
Despite later on them being annoyed that he's not this prodigy.
Yeah, he's a bit of a hypocrite, but anyway. So I give it a 3 for story.
I think 3 is fair for story as well. Yeah. So I've got the rankings here in Duffy Beer. So you've got a 2 for emotion, a 2 for laughs, a 2 for lines and memorability, and a 3 for story. And that's a 9 out of 12 or 4 out of 5. And as part of the ranking, we also like to then put them into our tier list. So I'd like to just remind everybody of our tiers. Instead of going from S rank, A rank, B rank, C rank, etc., we go from the dud, which is the worst episodes.
Yeah.
Per Millhouse.
The Millhouse of episodes.
If you're not quite the dud, but you're still not great, then you go into our craptacular category. If you're an okay episode, you could also call it an okily dokily episode. And if you're better than that, and this is where we get into the good episodes, then it's chock full of heady goodness. And then for the best ever episodes, those are groin-grabbingly transcendent. So some good references there for people who can get them. And what category is this one going into, Duffy Beer?
So I'm going to put it into chock full of heady goodness.
I think so, yeah. That's a good one for it. It is a really good episode, isn't it?
It is good. I think it's not, I think the memorable thing about it is that it's not an awkward episode. It's just chill.
Very chill.
Yeah.
And
it's not boring, or it's not, clunky.
I guess the way this season was released in America, it was a pretty strong start then.
Yeah.
The Simpsons roasting up and fire and
Good
Bart the Genius.
John Vitti
kept it going. He saved it. And there's another little thing that we like to do at the end of each one. We're both big fans of music. So we like to recommend a song that we think could be used as a background song of a montage or an AMV of this episode. Something that maybe the lyrics suit the episode and the story.
If we were back in our teen days making maybe an AMV.
Yeah, what song would we use? And
What the kids are making on the TikToks.
yeah, that's hopefully maybe
Maybe
we'd be on TikTok making little montages of this,
Maybe.
getting the kids involved.
all the cool kids listen to the Cromulent Craic Show.
I want to listen to the Cromulent Craic Show. listen.
No.
So what's the song for this episode, Duffy Beer? What have you got a song for us that's thematically and that sounds cool that you could picture over an AMV of Bart the Genius?
So I'm picking a kind of a new enough song, really. It's Masterpiece. I Might Be Fake.
Ooh,
Yeah,
nice.
kind of a bit of indie sleaze, even though it's from the year 2023. But the indie sleaze era kind of gives me that vibe.
It's a very it sounds like a song to come out around 2004 or something.
Yeah, 2000 and like, 2006 era.
Yeah.
I can imagine people with really smudgy eye makeup, ripped tights, dancing to this.
That cool kind of electronic music mixed with like block party style rock music.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
And then it's the guy, and it's like, the chorus is like, I'm just a poor boy in my French, head full of dreams, pocket made of beer. Even the greats sometimes get it wrong too. I might be fake, but I always love you. And I just imagine it's just like Bart, obviously, kind of having to fake it till he makes it in this class, and he doesn't make it. He's out of his depth, really.
So Bart might be fake, but unfortunately Homer doesn't always
No,
love him.
Homer doesn't seem to always love him. He loves Homer, but it's not reciprocated.
Aw, poor Bart.
Hopefully Homer, he never opened that door.
Yeah.
And he turned green. He turned back to yellow.
Maybe Homer always loved Hugo more.
Hugo, yeah. He's like, Hugo probably would have gone into the special school.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knew how he was like sewing on a pigeon to a rash.
And he did all that.
He probably would have dissected that poor hamster.
Oh, so I'm glad he didn't.
Yeah, screw Hugo.
Animal cruelty isn't fun, guys.
No.
So that's the Bart the Genius episode.
Yeah.
And yeah, very good episode. Another one that you should definitely check out from season 1.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, a pretty strong start to the show.
So far, episode 1 is kind of, again, in the chock full of heady goodness. So we have 2 chock full of heady goodnesses here. I don't predict a lot of them are going to end up in the same tier. I think we're going to be dropping quality.
I think so. I think we're about to see very soon that season 1 is a bit up and down as we go.
The roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah, life is a roller coaster, and so is The Simpsons.
That's it. Just gotta ride it.
So I guess a little bit of housekeeping as well. This is being recorded in nearly February, and we've
Aquarius season.
Aquarius season. It's a couple of weeks after our first podcast, but we haven't released any of them yet. But we have Podbean set up now, so our first podcast should be up there. We're gonna get a release cadence going soon, maybe, where we give the first one a bit of time to breathe, so you'll be hearing this one when it's a couple of weeks old. We're getting a YouTube channel set up, and we'll be looking to release on Apple, Podbean, Google, possibly Spotify.
Any of the ones we can get for
As
free.
many as we can get for free, because this is a hobby at the end of the day for us, and we don't want to put our own money into it too much. Like
at this stage,
not while we've got no listeners. Well, hopefully we've got some by the time this is out.
Me.
Yeah.
Just under several different usernames.
On the Instagram, we've got some really good memes ready to go. Hopefully you've all seen them by this stage.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Hopefully we can log in.
And we'll be updating the website and looking to get that up as soon as possible.
Yeah. We're kind of going through renovations, seeing.
Going renovations, trying to get a good structure in place, and then once all this stuff is done, then we can get a good release cadence going, maybe once a month or twice a month, whatever we can get.
Get into a nice flow of it.
Yeah, I think so.
For old Blinky Joyce to swim in.
Oh, Blinky Joyce. Blinky Joyce will be around everywhere a lot anyway.
We're going to make him the El Barto.
I think so.
You'll see graffiti everywhere on walls.
This Blinky Joyce would be the symbol of revolution.
Yeah, V for Blinky Joyce. Blink Veta.
Yeah, so that's the Cromulent Craic Show episode 2, Bart the Genius.
Yeah.
And tune in next time for Homer's Odyssey.
Homer's Odyssey. Hi diddly ho, it's time to
go.
go. Do 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 do. Shh.